Dear learners, this is the continuation of my GATE solutions, and I am starting from question number 45. In my previous video, I had solved up to question number 44. So here is the question number 45. It says, suppose a firm has the following production function of x1, x2, x3, x4, which is equal to min of x1, x2 plus min of x3, x4. The per unit cost of input xi is given by wi, where I is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Suppose that w1 is equal to 1, w2 is equal to 5, w3 is equal to 3, and w4 is equal to 6. So these are the wages of x1, x2, x3, x4 respectively. So if the firm is minimizing cost, which of the following input choices by the firm can be observed? So here in this question, you have to see that what is the production function. And this production function says min x1, x2 means when x1 and x2 will be chosen, both will be equal, means it is always x1 is equal to x2, and plus min x3, x4 means x3 is equal to x4, because they are Leontief production function, but the entire production function is not Leontief production function, because these two input combinations means x1, x2 together and x3, x4 together are combined with plus. So that way they are perfect substitutes. These inputs are perfect substitutes, means x1, x2 combined is perfect substitute of x3 plus x4. So that way the production function becomes a straight line. And so I draw this production function. In the figure, this blue line is the isoquant line. And what about the isocost line? That also we can determine from the W1, W2, W3 and W4. So I drew this isocost line, which is having this steeper slope than the isoquant line, and that is the orange line. So graphically you see that tangency point is at the on the x-axis where the isoquant starts, means on the bottom of this horizontal axis it is x1 and x2 that will be chosen. Now let's see why this happens. So what is the cost involved here? So since this was a Leontief function, so x1 and x2 must equal. So if in the choices you look that x1 is greater than 0 and x2 is greater than 0, first of all this is wrong. And same way x3 is greater than 0 and x4 is equal to 0, both are not equal. So choice A itself is wrong. You can delete this or you can means say that this one is a wrong choice just without even doing any calculation. So A cannot be the answer. And what about B? So here you see that x1 is greater than 0, x2 is greater than 0, means both are most likely equal, though it is not exactly defined, but both can be equal. So this can be the choice. And here x3 is equal to 0, x4 is equal to 0, means both x3, x4 are equal, which is the condition of this min x3, x4, both must equal. So B seems to be the correct choice. What about C? Again, this condition is violated, the equality condition. What about D? Yeah, here the equality condition is not violated, means x1 is equal to 0, x2 is equal to 0, and x3 greater than 0, x4 greater than 0. So if you don't know economics, you can still choose that only B or D can be the answer, and then apply your normal guess. So since W1 is less than W3 and W2 is less than W6, so the combination of W1 and W2 is definitely less than the total of this W3 and W4, which is 9, and W1 plus W2 is only 6. So this should be the choice, and in that case B is the only correct choice that you can answer even without knowing economics. Okay, so I have written in detail that how I solved this, and it is the same thing which I spoke. So that's our solution to question number 45. Now I go to question number 66. Suppose an econometrician had specified the following regression. Y1 is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 Z2t plus beta 3 Z3t plus beta 4 Z4t plus epsilon eta t. But the researcher estimated the following regression. He estimated yt is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 Z2t plus beta 3 Z33 plus beta 4 Z4t plus beta 5 Z5t plus eta t. So this beta 5 Z5t is the additional independent variable that the researcher estimated. So what will be the consequences of including the irrelevant variable on the estimated coefficients? So here, as I said, the unnecessary variable is Z5t, and whenever we add any unnecessary variable, it increases the variance. So when variance of the function is larger than what it should be, then our F test and T test will fail, and so this will reduce the efficiency of the coefficient. So whenever the most efficient function is that which has the smallest variance, so efficiency is measured by the variance. So since here one unnecessary independent variable has been added, it will increase the variance of the function, and that way it will be less efficient. So the choice A is the unbiased, consistent but inefficient. Yes, this choice A seems to be the correct. What about choice B? Coefficients estimate will be consistent, asymptotically efficient but biased. No, they cannot be asymptotically efficient. So this part is not correct. This part should be, so this makes the choice be incorrect. And coefficients will be inconsistent and efficient. Well, they cannot be efficient because variance has increased, and coefficient estimates will be biased, consistent and efficient. So you see that all three are talking about efficient and only one is inefficient. So you can choose the answer correctly by choosing that, well, only inefficient is in A and rest three are talking about efficiency. So the three cannot be correct, means B, C, D cannot be correct, hence A should be the right choice. So I am telling you that even if you don't know economics, try to make an intelligent selection, because in GATE when you have multiple choices, it is better to use POE, means process of elimination also, and that will increase your percentile, or that will give you an advantage over your competitors. So now I go to the next question, which reads Okun's law. Okay, Okun was an American economist, and he wrote Okun's law says that a 1% increase in unemployment for 1 year is associated with a 2% decrease in GDP growth. Suppose an economy has the following expectations augmented Phillips curve, means pi is the inflation, pi is expected inflation minus beta times u minus un. So where beta is greater than 0. So Phillips curve shows the relationship between inflation and unemployment. So that's what it is giving. So where pi and pi e are inflation and expected inflation rates, because e is the expected, U and UN are the unemployment and natural rate of unemployment respectively, and beta means sensitivity of inflation to unemployment gap. Okay, it means that how this inflation affects unemployment. That is what it means, measure sensitivity of inflation to unemployment gap. But when beta is equal to 2, by what percentage does output fall short of full employment given that the inflation rate, expected inflation rate, and natural rate of unemployment are 8%, 10%, and 6% respectively. So we just fill these values in the equation. So this inflation is 8%, so I put it 0.08, and 10% is the expected inflation pi e, so I put here 0.10 and minus this beta value 2 and u times 0.06. So this gives us this, I am collecting this 2 times u minus 0.06 is equal to 0.02. So u is equal to 0.01. That's how I calculated. Since u is 1% higher than natural rate as per Okun's law, GDP falls by 2%. It has already been given here that Okun's law says that 1% increase in unemployment means it is above the natural rate of unemployment. So what did I write here? U minus 0.06 is equal to 0.01. That's what I put here. And u minus 0.07, which is u is 1% higher. So actual u is 1% higher than the natural rate of unemployment. So it should be somewhat this part. So that gives me this unemployment figures. So un is u minus 0.06 and u is equal to 0.07. So when this 1% unemployment is higher than the natural rate, that is what actual u is, and un is the natural rate determined, and so the answer becomes 2%. Now I go to the next question. So it says, let function of x be probability distribution function of a random variable x, where function of x is equal to 5x to the power 4 by 64. And the condition is that x must be greater than minus 2 and less than plus 2 and is equal to 0 otherwise. So let function denote the modulus function where px is less than 1 and px square is less than 3 are given by respectively. So I tried to calculate this px first. So x ranges between minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1 and 2. It is a straight line uniform this probability distribution function. And how did I know a straight line? Because these values are just increasing and decreasing by the uniform rate. They are increasing or decreasing at the uniform rate. So x is equal to 0, 1, 2 on the right side, and on the left side it is minus 1, minus 2. So in the uniform distribution we calculate the probability, expected probability for each of the values. So for when x is equal to minus 2, this becomes 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is equal to 16 and times 5. So 80 by 0.64. And then the value of function x for when x is equal to minus 1 is 5 by 64 and 0 and this 5 by 64 and 80 by 64. So that way you see that all the values are positive. Then I go for px less than 1 because it asks the calculate probability of x less than 1, mod probability of x. So this becomes the area between 0 and 1. So 0 and 1, because we always use only the positive values when we are taking about this mod, so we don't use the negative values. So that's why this area covers px less than 1 and greater than 0. So this one is 5 by 64, this value divided by this entire thing. So 80 plus 64 plus 80 by 64. So that gives me the probability 1 by 34. So, well, you can answer by this only, as A is the only choice. So A is the here 1 by 32, means 1 by 32 value is there in A only. So if you are able to solve this correctly and you are confident, then you can answer that okay, A is the correct choice. So that gives us the correct choice as A, and I put it here, A, I highlighted, this is the correct answer. So rest of them are not correct. But anyway, let's check the other part as well, which is more difficult. And it says px square is less than 3. So here it is x square. So I wrote this probability function means px square less than 3 gives that px, because you have to take this, it asks for px, not x square. So whenever you calculate probability, you always calculate with x, whatever be the function. So px is less than 3 to the power 0.5. I just took the square root of this. So under root of 3 is 3 to the power 0.5. So here is the integral function. It goes from 0 to root 3, and the distribution is 5 by 64 times x to the power 4 dx. So I took the integration and I got the result 5 by 64 times 5 to the power, because this one is 5 by 64 times to the power 5 times 3 to the power 5 by 2, and that gives the values 9 times 3 to the power 0.5 by 64. Since there is no modulus function and x square eliminates negative values, the probability range is both sides of x, both sides of 0. So x ranges from here, and it won't be 2 because the condition is x square value is less than 3. So it starts from here, from less than 3 it will be this, 3 to the power 0.5, then 1, 0, 1, and 3 to the power 0.5, and then 2. So hence we will, and so our answer is this part, means 9 times 3 to the power 0.5 divided by 64. And since it is both sides, from 0 to this side and 0 to 3 to the power 0.5, I multiply by the 2 to get the exact probability, and that gives 9 times 3 to the power 0.5 by 32. So this one, 9 times 3 to the power 0.5 by 32. So that way both ways, both choices match our calculation. If you have any difficulty in understanding, let me know in the comment section, and I will explain you in detail if you didn't get it properly. Now I go to question number 49. So this question asks, liquidity adjustment facility uses the following instruments. So this liquidity adjustment facility is nothing but open market operations where any central bank buys and sells government securities in the market, mostly to the banks, so that the money supply or liquidity can be adjusted. So when it wants to increase the money supply, the government buys, not government, sorry, the RBI buys government bonds from banks, and when it wants to decrease money supply, RBI sells those government bonds to the banks. So these are also called, there is a discount for buying and selling, and they are called repo rate. So when the RBI sells bonds to the government, it pays them repo rate. And when it buys back them at the higher rate, then that becomes the reverse repo rate. So the answer of this is uses the following instrument. It says call money rate and Mumbai interbank offer rate, means MIBOR, MIBOR. That is London is LIBOR, and in Mumbai it is MIBOR. So call money is given for marginal accounts, means when the margin account, someone is trading on margin account and the stock has, or the security has lost value, then call money, then the call for depositing more money is given by the bank. Hence, this is not the correct choice because it talks about liquidity adjustment facility, and this is not liquidity adjustment facility. So B is the correct choice because it talks about repo rate and reverse repo rate, which is the activity of RBI or any central bank. So this is also known as open market operations. That increases or decreases liquidity, means liquidity adjustment facility. So I already told that how liquidity is decreased or increased in the economy by this open market operations. Then C is bank rate and statutory liquidity ratio. So bank rate is the rate at which RBI lends to banks for longer terms. It is not like this open market operations. RBI increases the bank rate or decreases the bank rate when it wants to encourage banks to borrow or just not borrow. And SLR is the percentage of deposits, demand deposits, which we deposit with the banks, which banks must have in cash, gold, or high quality liquid assets. So, this is a legal requirement, and bank rate, though it increases money supply, but it is for the longer term. It is not for liquidity adjustment facility. Okay, so that way this answer is not correct, and definitely this SLR is not correct because it reduces this money supply. So it reduces liquidity. And the fourth choice is cash reserve ratio and prime lending rate. So cash reserve ratio is the cash percentage of deposits that banks keep with RBI, and prime lending rate is the rate on loans to highest credit rating borrowers. Means those borrowers who have the best credit rate, means they have not defaulted in the past and they are managing the money efficiently. So this one uh, doesn't increase liquidity or this doesn't increase or decrease liquidity because it is prime lending rate, means banks lend to the customers. It has nothing to do with money supply in the economy. Hence this is definitely wrong, though this part is correct. Cash reserve ratio, it changes money supply in the economy, but again it is not used as a liquidity adjustment facility, because definitely this second part is wrong, so you cannot choose D. And the first part is correct but not used on day-to-day basis, because this multiplier effect, means money multiplier effect, brings a drastic changes in the liquidity. So it is not for actually a small liquidity adjustment facility. Now I go to the next question, and that is question number 50. What is the weighted of manufacturing sector in the index of industrial production during 2021? Well, numbers are in approximate value. So this is just a question of current affairs. Means if you are reading the newspaper, you will encounter this. And in 2021, this weight was 78%. So here you can, this is the website where you can find this 78%. There is really nothing much to discuss in this question because it is a factual question requiring no analysis. It is just for knowledge purposes. Now next question is the curve that explains the relationship between tax rate and tax revenue is known as. So this, the correct answer is Laffer curve, and Laffer was having dinner with officials and press people. He was American Treasury Secretary, which is equivalent to American Finance Minister. Means our Finance Minister equivalent is Treasury Secretary in the USA. So he had his hand, he took the handkerchief and just made this kind of graph, this kind of picture, and said that this is the curve of tax rate and the revenue collection. So tax revenue collection is on the y-axis and tax rates are on the x-axis. So when taxes are increased from 0 to t up to a point, then there is better tax compliance, there is better economic activity, and tax collection, tax revenue increases. But when it reaches this optimal rate, people start not working, because they say that, well, all my income or most of my income is taken away by the government, so what is the point in working? And that is the situation in India right now. And also, the people try to avoid taxes, means they don't want to means comply with tax laws, because they say that benefit of avoiding taxes is more than the cost of being caught. So many people start, especially these high earners, like either they leave the country to avoid taxes, or just use chartered accountants to pay less taxes. So that way, beyond a point, this tax revenue collection begins to decline. So since Arthur Laffer made this curve using his handkerchief on the dinner table, from that day it came to be known as Laffer curve. So this is the correct answer. And what about angel curve? This curve discusses the relationship between income and expenditure on a particular consumption good. Means as the income of the person increases, how much does he spend on consumption of one particular good, maybe food item or luxury items like cars and computers or education. Education is not a luxury item, okay? It is a necessary item. Food is also a necessary item, but it says that on a particular consumption good. That relationship is shown by angel curve. And the next curve is beverage curve. This talks about job vacancy rate and unemployment. So it is not always equal, job vacancy rate and unemployment. It is possible that there will be more vacant jobs and unemployment will be high when the government has generous unemployment insurance. Means unemployed people are getting enough money to survive, then in that case they will not work for low paying jobs, and that is what this beverage curve explains. And Phillips curve, I had already said that it talks between inflation and unemployment. So I hope it is clear to you. Now I go to question number 52, and it says, suppose the estimated consumption equation of an economy is C is equal to 40 plus beta YD, where YD is personal disposable income. You know, disposable income is your total income minus your personal taxes. So personal income minus personal taxes gives the disposable income. So beta is the marginal propensity to consume, and government expenditure G is given as 90. Total tax TX received is delta Y, means income times fixed percentage, where Y is aggregate output or real income, and delta is tax to real income proportionality factor. So autonomous investment IA is given as 80. What are the tax revenue and budget surplus of the government when beta is equal to 0.75 and delta is equal to 0.20? It means tax rate is 20% and MPC is 0.75. So all units are measured in constant rupees. Okay, so this makes our life easier because they are in constant rupees. So we calculate that y is equal to c plus I plus j. This is our equation. There are no exports and imports, so I am ignoring that part. So y is equal to 40 plus 0.75 times y minus t. Y minus t is this YD, disposable income, and plus I plus g. So this gives me y is equal to 40 and beta is 0.75. So I put here 75 and y minus 0.2y. This is 0.2y. And plus 80 is the investment and 90 is the government expenditure. So that gives me, I bring this y this side. So this one is how much? 0.6y, because y minus 0.2y is 0.8y and times 0.75 is 0.6y. So y minus 0.6y is equal to 40 plus 80 plus 90, which is equal to 210, or y is equal to 210 by 0.4. So this gives y is equal to 525. Now taxes delta is 0.2. So this becomes 525 times 0.2 is equal to 105, and surplus is since government expenditure is 90, so surplus is T minus G, which is equal to 105 minus 90, which is equal to 15. And that matches our answer choice A. There is no point in discussing B, C, and D because there is nothing that I can explain in this. The formula, this is the formula, and that is you will use always. Now I go to question number 53. So it says, consider a two-period consumption model in which a representative household lives for 2 periods only. In period 1, he earns income Y1 and consumes C1. In period 2, he earns Y2 and consumes C2. He can borrow and lend at the same rate of interest R. So R is given, the interest rate between 2 periods. His lifetime utility function is as follows. U C1 C2. C1 means consumption of this period and C2 is consumption of second period. This is equal to ln C1 plus beta ln C2. Okay, this one is logarithmic function. Where beta is greater than 0, measures the sensitivity of future periods consumption. Okay, so it talks about the sensitivity of C2 for utility. Now, what will be the marginal propensity to consume of current consumption? That is dC1 dy1. So here we see that the person can consume in next period from savings of this period and earning of that period. Okay, so in whatever he earns in the second period and whatever he saved in this period, he will earn interest on that, which is this 1 plus RT. R is given, no? Okay. So our function becomes C1 plus S1 is equal to Y1 because he didn't consume all of his Y1. And so S1 becomes Y1 minus C1. That is what his saving is. Now, what is his C2? C2 becomes whatever he earns in the second period because he consumes all his earnings because he dies after the second period. And then S1 will earn some interest. So this becomes S1 times 1 plus R2. That is the total consumption that he will consume in period 2. If he doesn't save anything in period 1, he will consume only Y2. So on eliminating S1, I get, means this S1 I am substituting. So what do I get? C2 is equal to Y2 plus 1 plus R times Y1 minus C1. I only substituted S1 with Y1 minus C1. And this one is equal to what? C2. So I put this here. So C2 is equal to this I got. Then C1 plus C2 time divided by 1 plus R. Means I am dividing this by 1 plus R. So I get Y1 plus Y2 divided by 1 plus R times R. Okay. So this is our budget constant. This becomes our budget constant for both the periods. Now utility function is given as U is equal to U ln C1 and beta times U ln C2. So substitute this C2 value so that we get into C1 forms. So I get U is equal to U ln C1 plus beta times U ln Y2 plus 1 by R times Y1 minus C1. It is this one, no? C2 value here. Here it is this one. This one I substituted for here. Okay. So Y2, okay. These two I substituted. Okay. Now maximize U with respect to C1 because the question asks is dC1 dy1. Okay. So with respect to C1 and set the first order condition is equal to 0. That is how you maximize any value. So derivative of ln C1 is 1 by C1, which is equal to beta times 1 by R divided by C2. As I substituted back C2 because it was becoming too long, so I substituted back C2. So C2 is equal to beta times 1 plus R. So means C2 I brought it this, so it came here, and beta times 1 by this R by C1. Actually it should be this C1 will be multiplied by this beta times 1 plus R. So that is my equation. And then again substitute C2 in the budget constant and get C1 plus beta C1 is equal to y1 plus y2 divided by 1 plus r. So what is the budget constant? This one was our budget constant. C1 plus C2 by 1 plus r is equal to y1 plus y2 divided by 1 plus r. So I substituted this part here. So C1 is this on solving I bring C1 this side. So C1 times 1 plus beta. So I will have to divide by beta in all this. So that becomes y1 divided by 1 plus beta plus y2 divided by 1 plus r times 1 by beta, because this 1 by beta is in the denominator. Hence take the derivative of dc1 dy1 and that gives you 1 by 1 plus beta. So this is the answer A. That is the only answer which is correct. Now I go to the next question, and the next question is, suppose an investigator has specified the following simultaneous equation. y1 t is equal to alpha 1 plus alpha 1 2 y2 plus alpha 2 m2 plus alpha 3 kt plus ut, and y2 t is equal to alpha 2 0 plus a21 y1 t plus a3 it plus vt. So here you see that y1 t is a function, this part y1 t is a function of y2 t. Okay, so here again, and y22 is a function of y1 t. So that way this y2 t can be substituted either here, or this y12 can be substituted by this value. So that is to be noted, where y1t and yt2 are the endogenous variables. This mt, kt and it are predetermined variables. ut and vt are residual terms. This ut and okay. So based on the order condition of identification, means we have to do this order condition of identification, not anything else. So based on order condition of identification, which one of the following statements are correct? So the first statement is equation 1 and 2 are exactly identified. So how to determine that which one is truly identified and which one is not exactly identified? So the formula or the theory behind this identification is that what are the predetermined variables. So here predetermined variables are mt, kt and it. It all are predetermined variables, means there are three predetermined variables. So in equation 1 there are mt and kt, means two predetermined variables. And then again we go back and we see that okay, what is this p minus p1? P is the predetermined variable and p1 is here, this one, the variables required to be find out. So we have to find this one y1t and this ut. So this becomes 2. So we divide this by, we deduct it and we get 1. So endogenous variables are 2, means y1 and y2. So these are the two variables that we need to determine. Hence endogenous variables are e1 minus 1, which is equal to 1. So since p minus p1 is equal to e minus e1, equation 1 is exactly identified. So endogenous variables are this, p minus p1 is 1 and endogenous variables e1 minus 1 is also 1. So both are equal, and so equation 1 is exactly identified. Now for equation 2, p is equal to 3, but p2 is equal to only 1. That we need to identify. And what is that one? This one, it. Here it is only one predetermined variable, means only one. So that's why we deduct it from 3 minus 1 and that becomes 2. So e2 minus 1 is, and what about e2 minus 1? That is also 1. So since p is equal to p2, which is greater than e2 minus 1, equation 2 is over identified. So that's how we reach the conclusion that answer B is correct. So equation 1 is exactly identified, because here the predetermined variables are, total predetermined variables are 3, and minus this MT and KT. There are two P1 predetermined variables in equation 1, MT and KT. So that I deduct 3 minus 2, and that becomes, means P1 is the number of predetermined variables in equation 1. So that way I get P minus P1 is equal to 1, and endogenous variables are y1, y2, because here is the y1, no, this y2 is here and y1 is here. So there are two endogenous variables that we need to find out, and so I deduct that also from these two minus 1. So this gives us minus 1, and that way both are equal. So the way of identifying whether an equation is exactly identified or over identified is that you have to check the predetermined variables and then endogenous variables, and see that how many predetermined variables are total and how many predetermined variables are in equation 1. So you deduct from total predetermined variables minus predetermined variables in equation 1, and same way you identify the endogenous variables and deduct minus 1 from them, and if both are equal, means the deduction of after deduction, this P minus P1 is equal to E minus E1. Equation is exactly identified. So that's the way of identifying the equations. Now I go to the last question for this video, and it says there are two regions in a country. The demand for chocolates in region 1 is given by Q1P is equal to 100 minus P, and the demand for chocolates in region 2 is given by Q2P is equal to 200 minus P. So where Q1P and Q2P denote the demand for chocolates in region 1 and 2 respectively at price P. So P is the common price of both the regions. There is only one seller who is licensed to sell chocolates in the country. So he is a monopolist, means he will maximize his profit. So suppose the seller sets a price of P is equal to 125. Okay. The total demand for chocolates in the country at this point is, since P is equal to 125, so we have to find out whether P is, how P works in both the markets. So Q1 is equal to 100 minus 125, which is equal to minus 25. Since P is much higher, so he won't sell anything in market 1. And in market 2, Q1 is 200 minus 125, which is equal to 75. So that way total demand is 75 plus 0, which is 75. So B is the correct answer. And that's all for this video. This question was one of the easiest questions, and this question of intertemporal, that was really very difficult question. This question is also quite difficult. If you don't know the formula, it is almost impossible, but if you know the formula, it is very easy. But this question is the most difficult one in my standards. I had learned this solving when I was doing PhD in economics. I would not have solved it with my only master's degree. So I hope you enjoyed my video. I am Alakh Niranjan Singh, Professor of Economics for GATE Institute. Before that, I was in the Indian Economic Service and in the Civil Services Allied Service, that is through IAS exam. And so I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for paying attention.